everybody, Mark Moorhead here at the Hollow Flame Museum of Firefighting here in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm the curator of education, and if you can't come into our museum, we're going to bring the museum to you. And never let it be said that we don't have celebrities here at the Hollow Flame Museum of Firefighting. Today I'm in our Wildland Gallery where we have some great exhibits, but we also have our friend who hangs out here on a daily basis, Smokey the Bear. Yes, that's right, I said Smokey the Bear. The folks from the Forest Service will get annoyed with you sometimes when you say Smokey the Bear, because they say that his name should be just Smokey Bear. But as a kid, I grew up very fond of Smokey, always heard him referred to as Smokey the Bear, and it's a habit I have a hard time shaking. So I just think of it as giving him his proper middle name, like it's Smokey T. Bear. Anyway, Smokey is a symbol of the Forest Service, and what a lot of people know, but maybe some people don't, is that Smokey was a real bear. He didn't really wear a ranger's cap and jeans like he does here, but he was a black bear in the great state of New Mexico who, sad to say, lost his mom in a forest fire called the Capitan Gap Fire in 1950. And he got pretty badly hurt in that fire himself. He's just a tiny little guy, and he got burned a little bit, but the park rangers rescued him, and they took him to the vet, and the vet patched him up, and he gradually got better. And he was very cute, but he was a bear, and he was getting bigger. They couldn't keep him, and they also wouldn't have been able to turn him loose. He wouldn't have been able to take care of himself out in the forest. So they decided to talk the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. into taking him on as a permanent guest, and the Forest Service sponsored him, and he became the official Smokey the Bear. The drawing of Smokey had existed since the 1940s, but he became the first real bear to kind of officially take on that role. His original name was Hotfoot Teddy, I guess, because he had burned his little feet, in that fire hanging onto that tree trunk, but I guess he also smelled like smoke for a long time after that fire, and so they decided to go ahead and give him the name Smokey, and he became the official Smokey the Bear, and he lived at the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. And when the kids come through the museum, I always try to impress them, they never really are, by telling them that when I was a little kid in the late 60s, I went with my family to the National Zoo in Washington, D.C., and I saw the real Smokey. It's a very vivid childhood memory for me. He was pretty old then. He went to bear heaven just a few years later in 1976. But he was hanging out in his enclosure there, very much enjoyed life. But what I remember so clearly about it is that as old a guy as he was, you could still see the burns on his front legs and his chest and his face where he'd been burned all those years earlier in that fire. And it's always a good thing to remind us that when we go out into all the beautiful wilderness that we have here in this country and all around the world, that's somebody's home too. When you go out into the woods or you go out into the desert here in Arizona or in the great Southwest, there's all this beautiful, wonderful plant and animal life that lives out there, and when they have a fire out in the wilderness, a wildfire, well, that is the same as if we had a fire in a house or a building where we live. And fires, of course, are part of the natural cycle. A lot of fires get started by things like lightning strikes or meteor showers, things like that. And that's a natural part of the ecology of the forest. But what we really want to avoid is the, frankly, stupid fires that get started a lot by human beings. Fires that start from campfires, from barbecues, or really, really commonly from smoking. Just somebody being careless with a match or a cigarette. So if you go out hiking, or you go out to have a picnic or a barbecue, or you go camping, or all of these wonderful activities that there are to do in the great outdoors, first of all, grown-ups should know how to put out a campfire. And the basic concept for putting out a campfire is you throw somewhere between 10 and 18 buckets of water on it, and then about 6 or so shovels full of sand or dirt, and you stir it around, and you sit and wait for about a half an hour, and then you throw in the neighborhood of another 13 buckets of water on it, and another 5 or so things of sand, and you stir that around, and you sit and wait and watch it for another half an hour, and then you throw several more buckets of water on it, several more things of sand, stir it around, maybe watch it for one more half hour, and then throw another bucket of water on it, and then maybe it's out. That's how you have to think about it, okay? Smokey always says, if it's not cold, it's not out. So we got to make sure that all of those little embers and sparks and cinders and all that stuff, that they're all completely put out. So you put it out, and you put it out, and you put it out, and then you put it out some more. Basically, that's what you do with a campfire. Same with things like barbecue fires and picnic fires and stuff like that. But also, if you go in the woods, don't smoke. Don't even take your cigarettes into the wilderness with you, okay? Because we want to, first of all, we want to keep things safe for Smokey and his little woodland pals. When there's a fire and things go bad for them, it's not just that a lot of them die. A lot of them do. Most of them aren't as lucky as Smokey, but even the ones who survive, that forest fire can make it very difficult for them to find water or shelter or good food or anything like that. But also the men and women who fight those fires for us, the smoke jumpers and the hot shots, they have an extraordinarily hard and an extraordinarily dangerous job. And so honestly, we want to keep those people out of that line of peril as much as we possibly can. So on behalf of Smokey the Bear, I'm Mark at the Hall of Flame Museum of Firefighting here in Phoenix, Arizona. Check back with us often and have a good one. Bye-bye.